Hey everybody, well here we are barely a week into 2021 and the world is complete shit already. We thought 2020 was bad. Have you seen the news this week? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Alright, well, sticking with the unrest and all the shenanigans going on, I thought that this week's edition of Off the Cuff would feature handcuffs and shackles from the Civil War. I'm talking about the one in 1861, that one. Yeah, not the one going on now. The one back, 19th century, Lincoln, that one. Now, I don't have examples of every cuff that was manufactured during that period, but I would show you the ones that I do have. And I cover most of the time period. In America, that Civil War was fought between 1861 and 1865, and there were quite a number of handcuff companies that put out really good stuff at that time, and most of them obviously sold to the military because that's where the money was. You have all these soldiers and sailors and everybody, and once they start getting a little bored, shall we say, and back then they drank whiskey an awful lot, so fights broke out and things happened and people needed to be restrained, so we're just going to look at the American cuffs from that time period, because obviously other countries were making their handcuffs too at the same time, England, everywhere. Well, let's start with a cuff that came out just a little bit before the Civil War started, and we know this because we know of a very famous person that was once restrained in these cuffs while he was being hung, and that was John Brown. These are the ER cuffs made in Virginia, and they're quite rare, and I'm lucky enough to have a few pairs of them, and I've actually had 3 pairs in my entire life. The 2 I still have, and the ones that, I passed on to other collectors. We do know they were made, in the 1850s. They're basically similar to the Derby cuffs, in as much as they use the screw key with the barrel key. By the way, all of these I did videos previously, so you can go to them just to get more information and if you want to concentrate on one type of cuff or whatever. I'm just covering a whole wide range just because I'm doing that time period. These are the ERs, and basically this guy made padlocks like that. From what I've heard, the story goes that they figured if he could make padlocks, he could make them bigger as restraints, so he made handcuffs and leg irons. Notice this bulbous part, bulge on each end. That's pretty much the dead giveaway for ERs, but you always want to look for the stamping like that, because I do have other padlock manufacturers. I haven't seen any handcuffs, but padlock manufacturers copied his design, and everything is the same, but the quality is much lower. The keys are crap usually when you can find them. You can tell the difference in every way, shape, and form if you have one to compare it with. So that's the ER padlock, and they came in lots of different sizes. I think I have like 4 or 5 different sizes of these things. And interestingly enough, the very first time I went to the Lancaster Lock Show, I brought, because I had several of these, and I got them for dirt cheap, picking them up here and there over the years. So I figured, you know what, I know the handcuffs are rare, I'm going to see if I can trade this if anybody has a pair of handcuffs. And not one single person wanted to trade. And the last couple of lock shows I've been to, days were in high demand all of a sudden. So I don't know. It's just weird how the market goes. But anyway, these are the handcuffs. Mine happens to have 3 links. There's no swivel like the Hyatts, but the key is exactly the same. I'm not going to open them up right now because the leg irons are open. You'll see what they look like open. And the leg irons were just a larger version of the handcuffs. But these also came in different styles because, as far as I know, mine is the only pair in the world with this giant center link. And I've seen them before, other people have them where it's the smaller ovals. So who knows what else is out there? Maybe, nobody knew that this existed until I found it in the town I freaking live in at a local auction. I'm thinking, I wonder if there's, maybe with the bar, or who knows. And the strange thing is that at the same auction I bought these, later on, they had what they called a slave belt, and it looked like an ER lock, and it was a metal belt. But I wasn't convinced, and I didn't have a chance to examine it as closely as I wanted to, because I wasn't sure if it wasn't that or maybe something for an automobile, because it wasn't adjustable, and it looked just like an oversized, you know, the Model T locks that you see. It looked like an oversized version of that, but the locking tube was about that long, and it looked like an ER. And like I said, I wasn't able to examine it, and I wasn't able to even get to the auction, and I couldn't put an absentee bid in. I forget what their policy was at the time. But I did read in the paper it went for like $600, so I'd love to find that again and see what it was. Anyway, back to the leg irons. Just like Darby's, with the bolt catches in through there. Once it's closed, the screw key retracts it. It's got a pretty strong spring. One side of mine is damaged. The bolt is broken off about a quarter of the way down. So 3/4 of it is still there. And I could get it repaired, but it still works. I kind of just want to keep these ones the way they are. Even though there are guys out there like Bob and others that could do it and you would never know the difference. But just, I don't know, something about just preserving these in their original as found state to me seems important. So that's what I'm gonna do. In keeping with the Darby design, we have Providence Tool Company. Considering how bad things are, you can't really get to flea markets or whatever. The only place I've been able to pick up a few cuffs here and there is on eBay. And I got these because they came with a pair of bean leg irons I wanted. But they're damaged, they're toast. You know, rusted all to hell. I mean, I didn't even bother soaking them yet. I can tell that they're Providence Tool Company because, and I'll show you a better version, that's where the stamping was on this particular cuff. Okay, and also the lock case, the top of it is so round, it's almost like a mushroom cap. Yeah, stay clean. But here's a cleaner version of them, and they came in different finishes. You can see the round cap now. This one here has just a little wear on it. Strangely enough, almost all the Providence handcuffs that I own, it's only stamped on the one side, right there. And almost every single pair that I own must have been stored with that side up and in a drawer where people were throwing crap on top of it because they're all scratched and rusted away. It's horrible. It's like, you know, but you can still tell, and with the magnification, I can see that these are Providence Tool Company. And I also have the leg irons, a couple pairs of these, but this particular pair is extra clean. There's the stamping. And again, for close-ups of these, please go to the other videos on the channel and get your friends to subscribe while you're at it. Providence Tool Company. Yeah. For some reason, they stamped it up there. We do know that they had a big military contract because there's an awful lot of paperwork out there. Purchase orders, things like that. You know, different Army units are ordering a gross of the leg irons and the handcuffs. It's really neat, you know, and the prices just make your mouth water. Moving on to an improvement, I'd say, on the Darby design is the Delastasius, made in Philadelphia, in addition with Andrew Rankin, which is the next cuff we're looking at. These, interestingly enough, I got these at the same auction place where I got the ER leg irons, but years apart. Isn't that weird? I don't know how they ended up here. I really don't. This is damaged. It's supposed to be much rounder like that. Here we go. And the way these operate is the same, basically, but with an addition as the Darby's. You use the screw key, the barrel key, to screw down a bolt. But you can see that little thing in there. That is a brass sleeve. It's also spring-loaded so that when the key goes in, it pushes that moves out of the way. And the reason for that is so that you can't stick a piece of twine in there or try and open the cuff with anything but the key. It's very clever, and I'm surprised that the British didn't pick up on that and use it, because it's really a secure cuff. Trust me. As a matter of fact, I didn't even realize when I first bought these that that's what that was. I thought it was a broken key inside. It wasn't until I checked out the patent illustrations that I found out what that was. You know, I mean, hey, that's the fun you start learning. I actually have that patent paper too. Delastasius gave way to Rankins. Now this pair is damaged. You don't have to worry because I will show you what that piece looks like. I just wanted to show you this open. Made by Rankin in Philadelphia. Nice stamping. Came in different sizes as well, and different finishes. And what I like about them is this flat part and then the thumb loop. And that loop was so that the jailer had something to grip to when he was letting the guy out. I'll show you what I mean. So that's why I'm using these as an illustration. See it? It would be very difficult to open these, and that was an improvement on the Delastasius because these are very, very tough locks. So there you have a little loop-de-loop as a grip, which they did not need on the leg irons. And here's the Rankin leg irons. These were really popular in the United States Navy during the Civil War for some reason. And this is the part that goes in. There's like a little shelf and it rides over it, whoop, and snaps in place. And there's the keyhole. Check out the patent papers on these things because it's ingenious and it's kind of strange that I'm like, I don't know who would have thought of doing that. So that it closes like this and then it rides up over, there's a little hump in there and this rides up like that. That's what it looks like inside. It stops and then you push it, bloop, and then it catches. And it's very painful when you get your skin caught in there, trust me. There. I mean, that's a snap. Rankin leg irons came in different lengths of chain too, and like I said, different finishes as a comparison. What I'm doing is I'm holding them the same, so it's even up top. You can see different lengths of chain. I guess you could order what you needed. Now we come to the most famous, I think, and for me, hardest to find pair of cuffs, and one of my favorites, my personal favorites. Just because of the design. It's like a throwback to medieval times. These things are just freaking cool. And you'll recognize them from photographs of the people that were hung for killing Lincoln. Lily irons. Now, Ron and others have done an incredible job and an amazing amount of research on these things. I urge you to check it out. Go on the handcuff forum, you'll be able to find out more information. But I mean, exhaustive research, amazing stuff that they found. Newspaper articles and things. I mean, they put so many myths to rest and, you know, raised questions, and just, it's amazing the work that those guys did. And it's just iron bars. And that has a thread in there, and that's what this catches on. This bolt goes in, it screws in, but there's no spring. It just uses a square-shaped key, and the keys have an interesting story in themselves. But anyway, and it just clamps all the way down, and it keeps your wrists apart. These came in different sizes too. This is the only authentic vintage pair that I happen to have right now. So far, some were stamped. There's different stampings that you can find in different examples. Mine actually have Roman numerals, but if you look in magic magazines in the 1920s, they were selling these things like crazy. There's also a lot of questions as to how many were made and during what time period, but we do know, obviously, because of the photographic evidence in the Civil War. And they made leg iron versions too of Lily irons. And it's the exact same mechanism. It's just that instead of the bar, they put a chain, and the bands are not nearly as wide. Wider on the handcuffs. And there's a lot of stories about these, a lot of myths about, Captain / Sergeant / Major Lilly, about him dying with a pair of them on, the guy that invented them because he went crazy and stuff like this. But you got to read all the research that's been done to find out the real story. All right, so that's it for the examples from the first Civil War that I have. Sorry there wasn't much more going on this week because I've kind of been glued to the TV like everybody else. But I want you all to stay safe, and let's hope that things smooth out before our next visit together here on Off the Cuff. And don't forget, I do have that merch site, so you can get your official Off the Cuff t-shirts as well as a bunch of other stuff.